It is the oldest question, a question hardwired into our very being, the one mystery that connects every soul that has ever lived. When the final moment comes, who or what will be waiting for us on the other side? Will our lives be measured and judged? Is there a paradise to be earned? For 50,000 years, we have searched for the answer. On the eternal journey. Before the gods were given names, before the first word of Scripture was written, the eternal question was already there. 60,000 years ago, in a world of ice and giants, our distant cousins, the Neanderthals, lived and died. And in the face of the profound mystery of death, they did not simply turn away. In the silent cold of their caves, they performed an act that would define humanity forever. They buried their dead, with purpose. With reverence, they covered them in red ochre, the color of blood, the eternal symbol of life, and laid them to rest with offerings. Tools for a journey, and perhaps even flowers for a new beginning. Then, a new mind arrived on the world stage. Our own direct ancestors, Homo sapiens. And with this new mind came an explosion of symbolism. They ventured into the deep, terrifying darkness of the earth, carrying with them the first colors of faith. They left their mark, a ghostly hand reaching out to us, a signature that echoes across 50,000 years, declaring, "I was here. I mattered." And they painted a new reality, a spiritual world teeming with magnificent beasts that were both their sustenance and their gods. They carved symbols of life, of fertility, of the great cyclical mystery of creation itself. And they imagined a world where the barrier between human and animal, between the physical and the spiritual, was thin enough to cross. As the great ice retreated, the world was reborn, and humanity's ambition grew with it. They began to build, on a scale never before imagined. Great temples, aligned to the cosmos, became the new gathering places for their spiritual journey. On their pillars, they carved complex symbols of death, and for the first time, perhaps, a clear story of the soul's ascent to the stars. As humanity settled along the great rivers, a new civilization emerged that would become obsessed with the eternal journey unlike any other: Egypt. For 3,000 years, their entire culture was a finely tuned machine, designed for a single purpose: to conquer death itself. To the ancient Egyptians, the body was a vessel, a temporary home for the immortal soul. Death was not an end, but a dangerous transition to be carefully managed. And for the pharaoh, a living god, this transition was a matter of cosmic importance. The first step was to preserve the physical form, sacred and complex process of mummification, where the vital organs were kept safe under the protection of the gods. The body was wrapped in linen and protected by powerful magical amulets, creating an eternal, perfected image of the deceased, ready for the journey ahead. Once the body was secure, the soul, or Ba, was free to begin its perilous voyage. It would join the sun god Ra on his celestial ship, sailing through the 12 hours of the night, which corresponded to the 12 gates of the underworld. This underworld, known as the Duat, was a realm of terrifying demons and immense danger. To pass through each gate, the soul needed to know the correct magical spells and the secret names of the guardians. A single mistake meant eternal oblivion. Every night, the journey faced its greatest threat: the serpent of chaos, Apophis, who sought to swallow the sun and plunge the cosmos into eternal darkness. And every night, the gods, with the help of the worthy souls, had to defeat this chaos to ensure that the sun would rise again.
I have not done violence. I have not stolen. I have not killed. I have not caused pain.
But surviving the journey was not enough. The soul now had to face its final trial, the last judgment in the Hall of Two Truths. Here, the soul would be led by the jackal-headed god Anubis, the conductor of souls, before the great golden scales of justice. Their heart, the seat of their conscience, and the record of all their deeds would be weighed against a single, pure white feather of Mat, the goddess of truth. The eye-besetted god Thoth, the divine scribe, stood ready to record the verdict. And beside him, the terrifying demoness Ammit waited hungrily. Should the heart be heavy with sin, the soul would be devoured, ceasing to exist forever. Declared true of voice, the soul had earned its place in eternity. Its final journey was to pass from the Hall of Judgment into Aru, the Field of Reeds, the Egyptian paradise, a perfect, idealized reflection of the life they had known, where they would be reunited with their loved ones and live in bliss for all time. But not all civilizations dreamed of a paradise. For some of the most powerful empires on Earth, death was not a glorious continuation. It was a bleak and terrifying end. In Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, the great epic of Gilgamesh gives us our first written account of the afterlife. It is a story born from the terror of mortality, as the great king Gilgamesh weeps for his friend Enkidu, and for the first time truly fears his own death. In a horrifying dream, Enkidu describes the underworld to his friend, not as a place of judgment, but as a dull, empty prison. It was known as Arkala, the land of no return. Even the gods who dared to enter were stripped of their power and divinity. Here, there was no reward for the righteous, no punishment for the wicked. All were equal in their shared eternal fate. The souls of the dead existed as pale, silent shadows, forever eating dust and clay, with no memory of the vibrant world they had lost. Across the sea, another great civilization wrestled with the same dark thoughts. The ancient Greeks celebrated the beauty and glory of life with unmatched passion, precisely because they believed the afterlife was a shadow of our vibrant world. After death, the soul, guided by the god Hermes, had to pay the ferryman Charon for passage. He would pull them across the river Styx, the dark and sorrowful river that separated the world of the living from the kingdom of the dead. At the gates of Hades, the monstrous three-headed dog Cerberus ensured that once a soul entered, it would never leave. For most, the final destination was the Asphodel Meadows, a gray twilight realm where the ghosts of ordinary people wandered forever, without purpose, without memory. The hero Achilles, when met by Odysseus in the underworld, famously said he would rather be a slave on earth than a king among the dead. This gloomy kingdom was ruled by the grim god Hades, a solemn king, not of evil, but of an inescapable, final reality. Unlike in Mesopotamia, the Greeks believed in a form of judgment. The truly wicked were sent to Tartarus for eternal, meaningful punishment, and the truly heroic were rewarded with a peaceful afterlife in the beautiful fields of Elysium. But the gates of Hades opened only once for a mortal who wished to bring back a soul. The tragic story of Orpheus and Eurydice served as a powerful reminder to the Greeks that the border between life and death was absolute, and that not even the most beautiful art could break its laws. But not all cultures viewed the afterlife with such despair. For some, it was not a place to be feared, but a glorious prize to be won. In the harsh, frozen lands of the north, the Norsemen, the Vikings, believed that a life of struggle demanded a glorious end. A peaceful death in bed was a curse. The ultimate honor, the only path to a true warrior's paradise, was to die with a sword in your hand, fighting with courage and fury in the heart of battle. To fall in combat was not a tragedy. It was the final, greatest victory of a warrior's life. for it was believed that the All-Father Odin sent his choosers of the slain, the beautiful and terrible Valkyries, to select the souls of the worthiest heroes from the battlefield. They would guide these chosen souls up the Rainbow Bridge, Bifrost, to Asgard, the shining realm of the gods, and to their final reward, Valhalla, the great golden hall of the gloriously slain. Further south, another mighty empire forged a different path to paradise. For the great minds of Rome, the ultimate reward was not for the glorious in battle, but for the virtuous in life. A life lived with honor, duty, and reason was the key to a peaceful and noble eternity. The souls of these righteous few would earn a place in the Elysian fields. It was not a paradise of feasting and fighting, but of tranquility, a place of eternal, pleasant conversation and the quiet pursuit of knowledge. Here, heroes of the mind and spirit could find their ultimate peace, their souls finally free from the burdens and passions of the mortal world.
The gods are benevolent.
The ancient worlds have vanished. Their gods now sleep in stone and shadow, but their questions, their hopes, and their fears have never left us. The Vikings' glorious last stand echoes in our most epic stories of sacrifice. The Greek underworld has become a digital landscape for our modern heroes to conquer. And the solemn gods of Egypt live on, not as objects of worship, but as timeless symbols of mystery and power. Their stories have become our myths, their sacred texts our literature. They've built the foundations of the imaginative worlds we still inhabit today. Our temples may now be built of steel and wire, dedicated to the search for cosmic, not divine, laws. And our new sacred texts are written in the complex language of mathematics and physics. But our quest remains the same: to understand the nature of consciousness and our place in the universe. Because for all our science and all our stories, the eternal journey always comes down to a single human moment, a final goodbye, a hand to hold in the darkness. After 50,000 years of searching, the question remains, and perhaps the journey itself is the only answer we were ever meant to find.